So if you've been in this community long enough, you're bound to have seen debates on if Goku's a good dad or not. And it got me thinking, who is Dragon Ball's best father? Off the bat, let's cross off some not so great dads like Paragus here. In both the movies, Paragus was forced to leave planet Vegeta as the king got too scared of how strong Broly was as a mere child. Funny how Frieza destroyed the Saiyan world for a similar reason, fearful of the Super Saiyan. Anyway, Paragus did care about his son at the start, proud he could be a loyal servant to the king, and it's especially highlighted in Super when he goes out his way to rescue Broly from the inhospitable planet Vampa. However, both Paraguay realised their king was right all along. Broly's a ticking time bomb with all that untamed power and could blow up the planet any minute now. To avoid this, a controlling device was made to keep Broly in check, but look how painful it is on the receiving end. Paragus just sees him as a dog on a leash for his benefit, banking on a chance at revenge against the Vegeta family. That shock collar does remind me of a certain political streamer. I especially feel bad for Super Broly. He wasn't even allowed to make friends with Bar. Paragus ripped their friendship apart by shooting the creature's ear off, causing Bar to be too afraid to go near Broly. His father didn't see their bond as training, proving all he cares about is forging the perfect weapon, too intoxicated by his grudge. Even after all that, Broly still respected his father as he's the only one the Saiyan could interact with. Living a life of isolation meant Broly wouldn't know his dad's treating him less than the bare minimum. Assuming otherwise, Chiline Lemo's comments on Paragus rubbed him the wrong way, and near the end of the movie, Broly's Super Saiyan trigger was seeing his father die, filled with sorrow as he thought one of his stray blasts killed him, unaware of what Frieza did. I cannot say the same about Z Broly's feelings. Buddy crushed Paragus without any remorse, noticing the space pod was built for one person. As for the other bad father, I'm going with King Cold. Yeah, he practically spoiled Frieza, letting him inherit the whole army, but I will never forget when Trunks cut the Emperor Fruit Ninja style. King Cold congratulated the hybrid on his success before, not even a panel later, inviting Trunks to be his replacement son so the clan could become much stronger. Also, in Sparking Zero, he saw how similar Frost looked to Frieza and thought, let me try to adopt him as well. With the bad dads out the way, let's discuss some good ones, starting with the one who rebelled against Frieza's tyranny, Bardock. Firstly, we can all agree Super's version's much kinder than Z's, right? 5 minutes into his movie, Z Bardock refused to celebrate Goku's birth, as it turned out he was the lowest class Saiyan of them all, asking his crew what kind of donut would go visit him. Remember when he recovered in the healing chamber? This man recorded a power level of 2 exuding from Goku and full-on booked it the other direction, calling his son utter scum. It does reflect the savagery of Saiyan society, caring more about how strong their kids are to conquer more worlds for their expansion. Super Bardock on the other hand's a bit more happy to see his son, also recognizing the latent abilities Goku has even for a low-class warrior. Anyway, both versions eventually send their son away to Earth, acknowledging Frieza's afraid of a Super Saiyan arising, where Super's reason for Bardock knowing this makes more sense, as in the Granola Arc flashback, Gas hinted the Saiyans weren't fated to last much longer, along with Elec referencing a meteor dropping on his head. Z just gave Bardock foresight perks from being struck by a random alien, now able to peer into a future where Goku fights Frieza. As for his other fatherly act, the Saiyan was gifted a wish to make on the cerulean Dragon Balls, desiring for both his sons to end up thriving. I gotta respect Bardock for still prioritizing his children when he could have easily asked Minato to grant a wish suited to beat Gas in this life or death scenario. Protection from the heaters made the Namekian see the kindness in Bardock's heart, affirming it will save someone else one day, and guess what? The Saiyan references that exact thing, explaining to his wife why he's gone out his way to save Goku. Furthermore, Bardock intentionally chose Earth of all places to send his son, as 1. The people living there are weak enough for a low-class warrior to handle, and 2. The planet's worth pennies, meaning Frieza wouldn't bother sniffing his nose there. Overall for Bardock, he may not be the best father by our standards, as he's barely spent time with Goku during his birth, worth, but by Saiyan standards, he's brilliant, overlooking his son's low power level that others would have gauged as a symbol of worth for their conquering race. By choosing to save someone uncharacteristic of the bloodthirsty Saiyans, safe to say Bardock cemented himself as a pretty good dad in my book. Without his kindness, the Sun family wouldn't extend far enough to talk about his very own grandson, Gohan. A lot of his fatherhood shines during DBS Superhero, when one of the Red Ribbon soldiers attempts to lure Gohan by kidnapping his daughter. The hybrid got so mad that he went Super Saiyan on mere fodder, but he was on his knees praying he wouldn't be sent to King Yemma's. Once Gohan arrived at the base initiating his scrap of Gamma 1, a disguised Piccolo notices that android's still stronger, proposing an idea to Pan to reawaken his disciple's potential. Staging a scene from afar where Pan's seemingly being choked to death, Gohan's enraged he couldn't protect his daughter this entire time and transforms again into his mystic mode. Quick note, but I love how the form Zora casually has the ability to change the weather. By the end of the movie, Gohan saves Pan and everyone from the wrath of the Red Ribbon Army, specifically Cell Max, but to be honest, all of this could have been avoided if he wasn't so fixated on his Super Saiyan research. The work-life balance was really in the mud. He thought the project was so important that he makes Piccolo pick up Pan from school for multiple days in a row. It's diabolical Gohan's fully unaware of what's happening with his 3-year-old. Imagine an even worse evil managed to snatch her away from Gohan. He might never realize it until it's too late, all because of some ants. Thankfully, he learned his lesson on keeping Pan safe post-superhero. In the manga, Carmine recruits Trunks and Goten to defeat the hybrid, pretending he's a scary villain. However, when the man fires gunshots at his home, Gohan's had enough of him before turning beast on sight, swearing he'll never let Pan be harmed again. If it weren't for Goten and Trunks, I'm sure Carmine's head would have been ripped clean off. To summarize for Gohan, he may not be the best father of them all, but he's quite close. What matters is Pan still loves him all the same, and to be fair, I'll give the hybrid props, cause it must be harder raising a child, let alone one of Saiyan blood. Pan's especially hard to control with that potential, somehow even more broken than Gohan's. In Super, she gained the ability to float as an infant. Look how she's casually in orbit, with the whole Pilaf gang hanging by her leg. Anywho, let's delve into the last father of the Sun family, aka our MC son Goku. I refuse to believe anyone truly thinks he's a bad dad. For starters, this man openly sacrificed his life to protect Gohan not once but twice. The first when he immobilized Raditz for the Makanko Sappo, and the second when he teleported an exploding cell to King Kai's. Someone watching is probably thinking these acts are the bare minimum, so let's actually dissect his relationship with Gohan. One moment I adore is after Nappa's demise to Vegeta. Goku's ready to face the final boss, but before he departs, our hero tells his son that once it's all settled, they'll go fishing together. For a Saiyan, you'd think Goku's forgotten about it, as his head scrambled with the innate desire to fight like the rest of his race, plus all the crazy things he's experienced between a Saiyan and Cell Saga. But nah, Goku kept his promise after all those years, fishing with his son as a Super Saiyan during the 9 days wait for the Cell Games. We also have the year-long time chamber training just prior. One of Goku's main goals was to get Gohan to become a Super Saiyan, though the latter didn't believe he could achieve such a thing. Even so, Goku had full faith that his son will pull through, and this training regime consisted of some sparring rounds followed by some relaxation in line with the Turtle Hermit way. Training is the hobby Goku uses to connect with his son without any outside interruptions, and this bondage method continues where some of the close relationships he has with Vegeta, Meras and Oob are direct results from sparring with them. I'm sure you've made a friend sometime in your life from simply doing a hobby you love, like sports or music. That's exactly how Goku's developing his bond with Gohan, despite the world-ending threats. Anywho, let's skip to the Cell Games and discuss the infamous Senzu scene. Goku gives up on his fight with Cell before declaring the fighter who would take his place, Gohan. Goku haters use this as ammo for the bad father allegations, but it seemingly gets worse when he tosses a senzu bean to Cell, topping him to fall before the fight could start. I will concede it's a bad father moment. The problem is Goku failed to understand his son's true feelings about not having that same burning passion towards combat. Unlike others, Gohan didn't enter the chamber to solely get stronger. Nah, he mainly wanted to spend more time with him, filling the gap of Goku's absence throughout his childhood. This also happens in real life, where some fathers misinterpret their kids, assuming they want to pursue the same thing as them, like hobbies or career path. However, I'm not gonna slate Goku for healing Cell. On the surface, it seems he doesn't care about his son, but the implications of this are massive. Without the senzu, Cell doesn't get overconfident, meaning he wouldn't mess around, killing Gohan on the spot before ever reaching Super Saiyan 2. Second, healing the strongest being in the universe meant Goku had that much belief in his own son to not only stand his ground, but to utterly annihilate Cell. And guess what? Goku was right all along for believing in Gohan's broken potential, which he witnessed firsthand in the time chamber. And before anyone calls Piccolo a better father, are we gonna forget how he lobbed the 4-year-old Gohan at a mountain to see the same potential our hero saw? Anywho, the Cell Saga truly helped Goku to understand his son, which is clearly apparent in Super. When Mr. Satan buys Gohan a new house, Goku's glad his son can study as much as he wants without worrying about the bills, and in the manga he acknowledges his son's reluctance to fight when recruiting for the multiversal tournament, along with apologizing to Gohan for having to do battle again against Moro's soldiers. These moments encapsulate Goku's growth as a father, now fully in tune with his son's feelings. What people don't consider in this debate though is Goku's close bond with his other son Goten. Goku was absent for the first 7 years of Goten's life due to his sacrifice in the previous arc, and even in the Buu saga, the threat of the margin didn't allow our hero to spend some quality time with his son yet, but by the end of the day, Goten still cried on his dad's departure back to the other world. Super did a good job, cause during a lot of the slice of life, Goku hangs out with Goten more to make up for his absence. It's so wholesome seeing them share scenes together that were lacking in Z, like the simple act of Goten delivering lunch to his dad mid-shift. However, my favourite moment of these two was when Goku got ready to train with Whis. Goten catches him changing into his gi, to which he asks if he can tag along to Beerus's planet. Our hero gives an automatic yes, but to this day, I'm sad Chi-Chi intervened, forcing Goten to continue his studies. This was such a missed opportunity, cause Goku would have strengthened the bond he has with his son by doing the hobby he loves, and importantly, unlike Gohan, Goten actually likes fighting, meaning there's no misunderstanding in this two-way connection. Chi-Chi should have let him go with Goku. Goten needs to grasp who he really is instead of being pressured into the same field as his older brother. Anywho, Goku's overall a near perfect father, so let's see if his friend can beat him, aka my glorious Prince Vegeta. As much as I'm biased towards him, I won't ignore how atrocious of a dad he was in Z. Where do we begin? We have Vegeta not saving his wife and kid from Gero's ki wave, which had the future version concluding he must be pure evil. But to be fair, why is Bulma bringing her son to a battlefield in the first place? There's no justifiable reason for her to risk his safety. What else? There's also Vegeta attacking his son on the island of bad decisions. All Trunks wanted was to save his father and everyone by stopping Cell's perfection, whereas the prince only craved the proper challenge, ready to put his family on the line to fuel his ego. You could even mention his son's eventual death to Cell. In the moment, it's beautiful to see Vegeta's act of vengeance, showing he does have compassion, but the fact it took Trunks' demise to finally love him is alarming in of itself. The prince just never appreciated his son's company until it was all too late. As for the Buu saga, Vegeta reveals he never hugged Trunks before his sacrifice, which is sad enough on its own, throne, but what goes under the radar is what he says in the "You Are Number One" speech. The prince was confused how Goku kept surpassing him over the course of the show, so when he saw the closeness the Saiyan had with his loved ones, Vegeta assumed that's where his strength comes from, and decided to start a family of his own. Vegeta literally got married to Bulma and had Trunks, all cause he thought it would give him the power needed to finally beat Goku. Our hero's not merely living rent-free in his head, he's basically paid off the mortgage with how much of an influence he had on the prince. Thankfully, Vegeta grew to love his family by the end of Z, and we see this development in full display during GT and Super. During some gravity room training, Vegeta tests his son's abilities, exclaiming if Trunks lands a hit on his face, then he'll take him to the amusement park. Like Goku, the prince also kept his promise, going with the whole family without making us drop. However, for this section, I want to focus on his relationship with future Trunks. Before returning to the past, Trunks had some idea about his dad's kind nature from what he was told by Yamcha about the prior act of vengeance. However, Trunks wouldn't have expected such a positive change from the Cell Saga. An underrated scene is when Black destroys the time machine. Trunks despairs he can't return to the future to avenge Bulma, Mai, and all of humanity. The one who comforts him is none other than Vegeta, telling his son to not give up and that they will find a way. I like to think the prince resonates with Trunks' pain as he knows all too well the feeling of losing your home, so reigniting his son's motivation hits much harder, tying back to the main message on the time machine: hope. Coupled with his emotional support, Vegeta still keeps his harsh attitude towards Trunks, evident by the mini training match as a Super Saiyan Blue. The prince utterly destroyed him with the power of godhood, where the latter thinks his strength doesn't matter anymore, as the pure Saiyans are leagues above Black. That smile on his face triggered Vegeta, scolding his son for being short-sighted in his goals. If a much more powerful foe than Black appeared, he wants Trunks to beat them as well, and continue the path of growth instead of over-relying on others. There's some parallels in this to that one saying, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man how to fish and he's fed for a lifetime. Vegeta could take down Black himself, but Trunks wouldn't be prepped for any later threats on the horizon. Therefore, if the hybrid were to train with him instead, then the future's prosperity would be secured for a lifetime. The symbolism's enforced when Vegeta doesn't get up with his son's helping hand. That Trunks must learn to be independent rather than over-relying on others to solve his problems. During the battles he had in the future, Vegeta had plenty of fatherly moments. When they first arrived, the prince chose to fight alone, not for his pride's sake, but for his son's sake, mentioning they may not defeat Black, but Trunks still has a shot of survival to build his future with Mai. Switching to the manga, Vegeta initially refused to ever wear the Patara again, even in such a dire situation, but what swayed him is the conversation with Trunks about the tragedy of future Bulma's death. She desired to go to the past with Trunks, mainly so she could see Vegeta again. Back to the anime, we can't forget the iconic father-son Gallic gun. Watching them stand their ground against fused Zamasu brought a tear to my eye. I love how Vegeta's first Gallic gun was meant to destroy the Earth, in contrast to this one which is being used to protect it. Look at the reversal of the directions he's shooting. Once the pair get a clean hit on Zamasu, the prince doesn't hide his emotions, expressing how proud he is of his son, and to top it all off, after Zamasu recovers from their beam, steaming in rage, the god releases his divine lightning, to which Vegeta jumps in the way of its path, saving Trunks from imminent death. Trust me, all that was racing in Vegeta's mind was to avoid the same fate that fell upon his son back in the Cell Saga. Moving on, let's discuss how the prince views his only daughter Bulla. In short, he treats her like royalty, even pre-birth. Vegeta was upfront with Goku, affirming he won't join the Tournament of Power as Bulla could arrive any day now. Furthermore, once she's born, Vegeta balances his parenting responsibilities with Bulma, as shown in this scene here. For context, Trunks is struggling to change his sister's nappies while Bulma's on the phone, so Vegeta enters to save the day, changing Bulla's nappies with such ease. If this doesn't highlight how great of a dad Vegeta is, then I don't know what to say. GT further expanded on this with an older Bulla. Vegeta's full on driving her around with truck tons of shopping, and she basically dictates the prince's actions, cause the minute he showed Bulla his grown moustache, she bluntly told him to shave it off this instant, calling Vegeta a total geek. With no hesitation, this man pulled out the Gillette following his daughter's harsh advice. What can I say, Vegeta went from being an awful dad to one that others aspire to be. Now slightly better than Goku, but still not the best father on the list. Before the reveal, quick shout out to Piccolo and Grandpa Gohan for shaping their sons' lives for the better. I only put them as honourable mentions because they're both father figures, not biological dads. With that out the way, it's time to answer the title of the vid. The award for best dad in the Dragon Ball franchise goes to Krillin. Honestly, I can't find a single fault with his parenting. Krillin retired from being a Z fighter, all in favour of raising Marin to the best of his ability, always there during her upbringing unlike Goku. Also, this man was willing to rush Super Buu knowing full well the Saiyans couldn't scratch him, yet Krillin still went out fighting with a grin on his face, acting as a distraction for his wife and child to get to safety. In Super, Krillin got the job as a policeman working day and night to fend off crime, but in contrast to Gohan with a less physically demanding job, the Earthling continues to be there for his daughter, successfully achieving the work-life balance. Finally, Marin's birth was the reason Krillin retired, yet she's also the main driving force for her father's return to fighting. When Goku offers to train with his friend as prep for any future threats, Krillin declines, saying he's accepted retirement, to which 18's lost at how the brave martial artist she fell in love with has been reduced to a shadow of his former self, whining about a bullet wound. Krillin then begins considering Goku's offer, but what seals the deal is his daughter stating her mum called him a total wimp. Hearing the Saiyan's pursuit for power leaves Marin desiring a strong dad by her side, and it's cause of this Krillin agrees to train with his friend, motivated by the innate paternal love he has for his daughter, which all paid off by the tournament as another representative of Universe 7. To conclude, Krillin's the best dad in Dragon Ball, always there for his kid no matter what, and plus, he didn't even need character development to become one. So if you've got this far, thanks so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this vid.